Hi guys, what's up? It is your girl Precious back with another video, and today's video is going to be a review of the have and have nots. I'm so sorry I missed the review last week, but I'm here to do the review for this week. And so without further ado, let's get into the review. So this episode starts out with the police finding the body. So they finally have found this body that Candace has had in her backyard for God knows how long. And then they show a short little clip of that. And then it goes into Candace and Jeffrey having a meeting with Veronica. So Veronica wanted to meet with them. They don't know why. And so they are at the hotel waiting for her. So Jeffrey gets a call from Police Booty. He's talking like in police talk about how they need to meet up and how they found this and whatever. Basically just calling to tell Jeffrey that they found the body and that they need to have a meetup because they need to talk about it. So then Veronica arrives at the hotel. Instead of going straight over to talk to Jeffrey and Candace, she stops at the receptionist. She has these flowers in her hand. She tells the receptionist the story about how the taxi driver said that the person before her left the flowers in the car and that they're meant for somebody, they need to be on time. Some old story she tells the receptionist. She persuades the receptionist to look up in their hotel stuff and see if they have somebody staying at the hotel by the name of Erica. So the lady says, okay, well, yeah, whatever. So she calls up to the room, tells Erica that there's flowers there, and then Veronica goes over to meet Candace and Jeffrey. Okay, so when she gets to the table with Candace and Jeffrey, she makes Candace move out of the seat because the seat that Candace was sitting in kind of faces the door, and so she wants to see who this Erica girl is because, you know, she wants to see who has piqued her husband's interest now or whatever. So after some back and forth, whatever, and some convincing, Candace moves out of the seat and let Veronica sit down. As soon as she sits down, she begins to throw these insults and these jabs at Candace, basically saying that the clothes that Candace has on are knockoffs. She says, I'm here to help. And Candace is not buying that she's here to help. Candace, you know, is pretty much like side-eyeing her, like, well, what do you really want? And so she's like, well, tell me everything. And so Candace, you know, she's reluctant. So Jeffrey begins to spill the beans and he talks about how they stabbed Quincy. After Jeffrey tells her that, Candace gets up and she says, you know, I'm leaving. I can't deal with this. I'm leaving. So Veronica tells her, girl, sit down before you scuff up these people's marble floor with them shoes. And then she gets to looking at them. She says, what are those? She hit her with the, what are those? She was like, what are them shoes you got on, girl? But anyway, so Candace sits back down. Then they begin to talk about, Jeffrey begins to tell her that they stabbed him about at least 50 times, but no more than 150. So she begins to tell him that, you know, this looks like overkill, it looks like a passion crime, and all this. And then Jeffrey tells her, well, that's what Candace says. And she goes, oh, did she say that? And Candace is like, yeah, I said that. I did go to law school. And then she begins to tell her, like, okay, but in law school, you have to read the books. And so Candace is like, looking at her real shady, like, and she's like, you have to read the books and not use them as knee supports while you down there sucking your way to the top. And then makes the sucking noise like, bitch, I fell dead to the bed. She says, well, tell me how you got the house. And Candace is still sitting there looking at her like, I'm not giving you no more ammunition and no more of my business, my good tea, for you to go around here and spill and use against me. And then Jeffrey's like, Jim got her the house. And then she's looking at Jeffrey like, damn. And so she goes, oh, well, I really want to hear more about this story. She begins to tell a story like, well, yes, Jim gave me the money or whatever she tries to tell. She begins to say how she was like, well, you blackmailed Jim. And then off to the side, we can see Erica coming downstairs, getting the flowers and going back up the steps. So Veronica is looking at her like she peeping out the corner of her eye, looking at her. And then, but Veronica is trying to be in two places at once. Like she's looking at Erica get the flowers so she can, you know, take note of who Erica is and everything like that. But she's also trying to stay in tune with the conversation that's going on as well. So then Veronica begins to tell Candace, you know, I like you sometimes, but you're stupid. And then she's looking at her like, what you mean What you mean I'm stupid? And she's like, girl, you bought this house with cash and you have no income. Like, dumb. And so then she begins to tell her about, Candace tells them about the banker, how the banker loaned them the money. I don't know, something about the banker, okay? Y'all watched the episode, y'all should know. I can't really tell you word for word what she said, but she begins to tell them about the banker, and then Veronica tells her that, you know, the choir's been having that banker man, you know, in their pocket for years, girl. So you got hoodwinked, you got bamboozled, you little hood rat. So then they're going on to tell more about the story about what exactly they did to Quincy. They say that they buried him in the backyard. And Veronica says, y'all got to be two stupid criminals. So then she goes, each of you, give me $1. Give me $1 now. You need to hire me as your attorney. So Jeffrey's looking in his wallet and he's getting the dollar out. And Candace says, bill me. So Jeffrey gives her $2. One for him and one for Candace. So then Veronica asks Candace for the keys to the house, and Candace is like, why? And she says to take back the possession of the house. And she says, well, I'm pretty sure they changed the locks by now anyways. And so she goes, change the locks? Why would they change the locks? And she tells her that the house was in bankruptcy because she forged some signatures on some paper. And then Veronica's looking at her like, girl, you are dumb. And so anyway, she goes, well, you know what? That bankruptcy may have just saved your life. And she begins to hint at the fact that when they foreclosed on the house, not bankruptcy, but foreclosed, but when they foreclosed on the house, then Candace no longer owned the home. It belonged to the bank. And the warrant is no longer valid because the warrant is for Candace's house, but Candace no longer owns the house. So whatever they found after the foreclosure is inadmissible in court. You know, it could be argued or whatever the case may be, because Candace was not the owner of the house when they found the body. And so Jeffrey's still confused. Candace, her little brain is ticking, you know, she did go to law school or whatever. And so Veronica gets up to leave and says, you know, she'll be in touch. And Jeffrey's still lost, like, what's going on? And she says, well, you take the honor of explaining it to Jeffrey, the father of my soon-to-be grandchild or whatever. And so she leaves. And so Candace explains to Jeffrey. So then we switch over to Jim. Jim is trying to get Katherine to tell him the truth about what happened to Jennifer Salison. Of course, Katherine is blaming it on Veronica. And Jim already knew that, you know, it was some bad blood between Jennifer and Katherine. So he already probably in his mind thought that Katherine did it anyways. So he's talking to Katherine and telling her, like, Katherine, these are asking her questions, like, these are the questions that they're going to ask you in court. Like, shouldn't you have blood splatter on you? And what position were you standing at when Veronica shot her? And what were you doing while Veronica shot her? And all this other type of stuff. And Katherine, you know, she's stumbling all over the place. She's like, she don't know. And then Jim's telling her, like, yeah, you just telling on yourself. You about to get your ass sold down the damn river. You're guilty. And so she finally admits, you know, that it was her, that she did it, whatever. Jim is telling her, like, why would you do that? Do you realize what you have done? Do you not know that the DA is a federal agent? They are going to be looking for her. And she goes, well, I don't care. She came between me and my only living son, my only living child, and she's basically telling him, like, the bitch deserved it. Okay. Jim says, you know, he'll handle it. And Katherine is pretty much telling him, like, you better handle it. And she's like, hey, Jim, make sure when you handle it, they clean my rugs down there, because that's a $200,000 rug and her blood is staining it. Bitch, first of all, who puts a $200,000 rug on the floor for people to walk on? $200,000. Like I say, that's rich people shit. Like, if you spill something on my little $20, $30 rug, I'm gonna be upset. But bitch got blood splatter that she killed the woman on a $200,000 rug, and then gonna say she's staining it. Like, bitch, what you thought? Anyways, so go over to Wyatt. Wyatt is meeting with his drug dealer. Wyatt is trying to get his drug dealer to give him more drugs. Blow is what they're calling it, I think. But the drug dealer's like, no, I'm not giving you no more drugs, Wyatt. You just overdosed. I'm not giving your ass shit else, because I had a homie that had a client that overdosed and they charged his ass with murder. No, God, no. I'm not giving your ass no more drugs. And then Wyatt goes like, really? What are you talking about? And he tells him, like, Wyatt, you need to go get you some help, man. You need to get some help. And Wyatt's like, you think you're the only drug dealer I know? You think you're the only one that got some blow? And the dude was like, I know I'm the only one that you know. And he's like, well, you know what, man? Just get out of my house. Get out of my house. Basically saying, like, I'm feeling for this drug. I need this drug. If you don't give it to me, get your ass out. I'll go find another way to get it. Okay. And, so now we're over at the hotel. Now we are with Hannah and little baby Quincy. He ain't no baby, but Quincy Jr. and Benny. They're at the hotel, and Benny has his plate of food in front of him, but Benny says, you know, he's not hungry. He's over there talking about he can't believe that Candace didn't show up, that Candace did not come. So Benny gets this phone call from Mitch. Mitch tells him, you know, in a panic, that Wyatt is out of jail and Wyatt is going to be looking for Candace. And he's like, oh my God, really? What? Wait, how do you know this? And he's telling him, you know, I just saw him get out. He's getting out of jail. He's going to be looking for Candace. And he's like, oh man, damn. So he gets off the phone with him. He's in a frantic. Benny's trying to leave the hotel, and Hannah is looking at him like, what's going on? What's happening? And he tells her about War getting out of jail, and he's going to be after Candace. And she goes, not War. Y'all practically raised War. Y'all were close. War ain't going to hurt no Candace. And he's like, you don't know War no more. That's the old War. You don't know about this new War. And so he leaves the hotel or whatever. Now we are with Quita, who's sitting on the steps of the ghetto. And she's with her little goons or whatever. And they're talking about, she's telling them, get a car and take me over to Candace's house. And they're like, why you want to go to Candace's house? Didn't you just come from Candace's house? And she's talking about, I left because it was too many police over there and stuff like that. And he was like, you want to go back? Like, that don't make no sense. But she's adamant about trying to figure out what happened to her brother. So there's this car that keeps driving around, and they're like, well, who is in this car? Like, why does the car keep driving around? And one of the little goons says he think it may be the police or whatever. And she's like, driving a car that look like that? That's a nice car. And so the car finally slows down in front of them, and Quita's little ghetto ratchet hood rat self says, she's like, man, what you want? What you want? And Wyatt just rolled the window down, and he talks about he was just looking for some blow, and he said he think he's lost, and then he says he was looking for some blow. So them being, you know, ghetto hood rats, they go up to the car, and they looking at the car, and they saying this car is nice, and they checking them out, and Quita's like, get this car from him. So one of her little goons is with her on one side of the car, and the other one walks around to the driver's side of the car where Wyatt is. They got their guns, they talking to him. Quita take his wallet, and they talking about, we'll help you find some blow or whatever. She take his wallet. She said, oh, he got a lot of money. Well, she said he had a lot of money because she took the money out of the wallet. The other goons looking through the wallet, looking at it, and they find out that he's a crier and that he's Wyatt Crier. And she says, the crier that hit little Lizzie. And she was like, well, now we got to fuck his ass up. Now we got to figure out somewhere to take him. And Wyatt's like, no. Hey, we don't need all this. I just came up here looking for some blood. And so they're like, shut up, white boy. And now Quita's all in this car. She got the gun on him. So now we go back to the crier's house where you see David looking like he's in charge of the cleanup crew. Jim asks him, so what's the plan? And he tells him that the plan is they're going to take the body back to Jennifer's house, set it on fire that night, and then there happens to be 4 men that are getting out on parole that Jennifer was the prosecutor on their case. And one of them was offered a job at this dry cleaner place that Mama Rose runs, or she's the owner of, or whatever. And they're going to set one of them up. Jim tells David that Katherine killed Jennifer and not Veronica. Katherine just told me herself she did it. And then David has like this sigh of relief, and he's like, hey man, don't seem too relieved now. We still all in this shit together. And he's like, yeah, I know. I just was so sure that Veronica had done it, you know. And so David says that, you know, he's leaving. David's in his car. He gets his phone call from Erica, basically just calling him to thank him for the flowers. And he's like, what flowers? I didn't see any flowers. Maybe that was your other little man. She was like, no, this flower saved from David Harrington. And David gets to think for like about 2 seconds, and he goes, no, throw them flowers out. Get them flowers out of your room. And she's like, what? Why? And she's like, get them flowers out of your room. So she says, okay. She grabs the flowers and she goes to the door to try to discard of the flowers. And then standing at her door is Veronica. And that is where this episode ends. So thank you guys so much for watching.